The moment a man's hand moves from your waist to your neck isn't just a physical shift, it's a psychological takeover that reveals exactly where your relationship stands in the hierarchy of desire. Now, look, I know we don't always talk about the gritty details of what happens when the bedroom door shuts, but if we're going to build a love life that actually works, we have to stop being afraid of the shadows. Over the last 15 years of coaching millions of people, I've realized that the physical acts we perform in the heat of the moment are rarely just about the friction. They are about the fiction we are playing out in our heads. When he reaches for you in that specific assertive way, it's not just a move he saw in a movie. It's a communication. It's a signal. And if you don't understand the frequency he's broadcasting on, you're missing the entire point of the intimacy you're trying to build. We live in a world that tells men to be soft and women to be everything, but then we get behind closed doors and suddenly the rules of the boardroom don't apply. There is a primal, ancient part of our circuitry that craves a different kind of power dynamic when the clothes come off, when he wraps his hand around your throat lightly, firmly, with that specific kind of intent. He is effectively saying, I have you. And for many of you, that realization triggers a chemical cocktail that no dinner date or bouquet of roses can ever compete with. It's about the surrender. It's about the polarity you see in our day-to-day lives. We are all so busy being in control. You're managing your career, you're managing your social life, you're managing your internal anxieties. But when you're in the middle of that bedroom tango, there is a profound relief in being managed. It's the one place where you can drop the heavy armor of the independent woman and test what it feels like to be completely overwhelmed by someone you trust. But here is the massive but that I need you to hear. There is a razor thin line between a man who is claiming you and a man who is trying to diminish you. One is an act of high level intimacy. The other is a red flag that you need to run away from as fast as your legs will carry you. When we talk about this kind of bedroom gymnastics, we're talking about consensual dominance. It's the intentional play of power where he steps into his most grounded masculine strength and you allow yourself the vulnerability of being restrained. It's not about pain. It's about the weight of his presence. If he's doing it right, it feels like a safety net made of iron. It feels like he is saying, I am so confident in my desire for you that I am going to physically ground you in this moment. It forces you out of your head where you're probably worrying about your to-do list or how your hair looks, and it slams you right back into your body. That's the psychological why behind the grip. It's a sensory overload that demands your presence. You can't be anywhere else when someone has that kind of hold on you. And let's be honest, in a world where everyone is distracted, being the sole focus of someone's intense physical attention is the ultimate aphrodisiac. I've spoken to so many women who feel guilty for liking this. They think, does this mean I'm weak? Does this mean I'm not a feminist? No, it means you're human. It means you understand that the bedroom is a laboratory for the parts of ourselves we don't show the world. It's a place where the nice guy can explore his edge and the powerful woman can explore her submission. This is what I call the polarity paradox. The more equal we are in the kitchen and the office, the more we often crave the extreme opposites in the sheets. When he takes charge in that way, he is creating a container for your pleasure. He is taking the responsibility of the lead in the dance so that you can simply follow the music. But it requires a level of trust that most people aren't willing to build. You can't just do this with any guy who has a pulse. This isn't just about getting spicy. It's about emotional security. If you don't feel safe with him when the lights are on, you will never feel truly liberated when his hand moves to your neck. It will feel like a threat instead of a thrill. And that's the first thing you have to evaluate. Is he doing this because he's attuned to your needs? Or is he doing it because he's watched too much adult film and thinks this is just what you do? There's a massive difference between a man who is performing and a man who is connecting. The performer is just checking a box. The connector is watching your eyes, feeling your breath, and adjusting his pressure based on the invisible dialogue you're having. One is a monologue, the other is a do-it. We have to get better at recognizing which one we're in. Because when it's a do-it, that grip becomes a shortcut to a level of soul, deep intimacy that most people never experience. It's the physical manifestation of the phrase, I've got you. It's the ultimate stop button for the noise of the outside world. And when you understand that, you stop looking at it as a kink and start looking at it as a key to unlocking a version of yourself that is raw and filtered and intensely alive. That is what we're really chasing when we get down to business. Not just the physical release, but the emotional revelation of being seen, handled, and desired with an intensity that borders on the divine. If you're ready to stop playing small in your love life, you have to be willing to look at these darker, more intense corners of desire and realize they aren't wrong. They are the fuel for the fire you've been trying to light for years. Stay with me, because in the next part of this, we're going to talk about the mechanics of how to actually navigate this without losing the respect or the safety that your heart requires. We're going to look at the toe of this power play so you can ensure always a tool for connection and never a tool for control. This is where the psychology meets the physical, and it's where your love life becomes a masterpiece. Now, let's get into the brass tacks of the mechanics, because let's be real, if the technique is off, the psychology doesn't matter. It's like having a beautiful car with no engine. It looks good on the outside, but you aren't going anywhere. When a guy takes the lead in this way, there is a technical proficiency required that separates the value man from the amateur who's just trying to act out a scene. First, we have to talk about the grip of respect. This is not about cutting off your breath. It's about claiming your space. A man who understands intimacy knows that the neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. When he places his hand there, he's essentially holding your life in his hands. That is a massive responsibility. The mechanical how to here is all about the Hussey shape. He shouldn't be squeezing your windpipe. That's not sexy. That's a medical emergency. He should be applying pressure to the sides, the muscles, the places where the nerves live. It's about a firm, steady weight that says, I am here and you are mine. If he's just grabbing wildly, he's not in tune with you. He's just in tune with his own ego. You have to look for the man who uses his hand as an extension of his gaze. It's a physical tether. Now, how do you handle this if you're the one who wants it, but he's being a bit too polite? This is where communication becomes your greatest superpower. You see, a lot of guys are terrified of being that guy. They are so worried about crossing a line or being perceived as aggressive that they neuter their own masculine edge. They're playing it safe because they don't want to lose you. But in playing it safe, they're actually losing the spark. If you want him to step up, you have to give him the green light outside of the heat of the moment. You don't wait until things are getting heavy to have a deep philosophical discussion about power dynamics. You talk about it over a glass of wine or while you're walking the dog. You say, I love it when you're assertive with me, when you take control like that. It makes me feel incredibly safe and desired. You are essentially giving him the keys to the kingdom. You're saying, this territory is open for exploration. When you give a man permission to be powerful, you'll be amazed at how quickly he steps into that role with more confidence and, paradoxically, more gentleness, because true power doesn't need to be cruel. True power is the ability to be strong while being incredibly sensitive to your partner's responses. This is the feedback loop of desire. While you're in the middle of it, your body is talking to him even if your mouth isn't. If you're leaning into his hand, if your breath hitches in a way that shows excitement rather than fear, you're sending him data. A man who is truly with you is processing that data in real time. He's adjusting the pressure. He's shifting his weight. He's checking the temperature of the room. This is what I call active intimacy. It's not a passive experience where one person does something to the other. It's a constant vibrating exchange of energy. If he's grabbing your throat and looking at the wall, he's not with you. If he's grabbing your throat and looking into your soul, that's when the magic happens. But we also have to talk about the red flags in the mechanics. If he ever uses that grip to silence you, to make you feel small, or to express anger that isn't part of the play, that is where the intimacy ends and the get out begins. Intimacy is a playground, not a battlefield. In a playground, you might get a little scraped up. You might push the boundaries, but the goal is always joy and connection. In a battlefield, the goal is winning. If you ever feel like he's trying to win over you, the dynamic is broken. I always tell my clients that your boundaries are the walls that make the house of your relationship feel safe. Without boundaries, you're just standing in a field in a storm. You need to have a safe word or a safe signal, even if you think it's horn cool or takes the spontaneity out of it. Trust me, nothing kills the mood faster than someone actually getting hurt or feeling violated. A simple yellow light for slow down and a red light for stop right now gives both of you the freedom to go further than you ever could without them. It's like a trapeze artist having a net. Because the net is there, they can fly higher, they can take bigger risks, they can do the triple flip because they know that even if they miss, they aren't going to hit the concrete. Your communication is that net. When you have that safety net in place, the rough and tumble becomes a form of high art. You start to explore the edges of your personality. You might find that the boss babe who runs a company of 50 people loves the feeling of being told what to do for 20 minutes. And that doesn't make you a hypocrite. It makes you a complex, multi-faceted human being. It shows that you have the range to experience the full spectrum of the human condition. And for him, it's an opportunity to provide a different kind of protection. It's not the protection of I'll pay the bills. It's the protection of I will hold the space for your wildest, most vulnerable self to come out and play. That is the investment I always talk about. You are investing in a level of trust that most couples are too lazy or too scared to build. You're saying, I trust you enough to let you put your hand on my neck, and I trust myself enough to tell you if I need you to stop. That is a high value mindset. It's about ownership of your pleasure and ownership of your safety. When those two things come together, physical escalation stops being just sex and starts being a revelation. You're learning things about each other that you can't learn through talking. You're learning about his restraint, his passion, and his ability to read you. You're learning about your own capacity to surrender and your own hidden depths of desire. We're going to wrap this up in the final part by talking about the afterglow and the integration, how you take these intense moments and turn them into a long-term, unbreakable bond. Because if you don't integrate the bedroom energy into the living room relationship, you're just living a double life. We want to build a bridge between the two so that the passion fuels the partnership and the partnership feeds the passion. This is where we move from playing a role to living a truth. Stick with me, because the way you handle the minutes after his hand leaves your neck is just as important as the minutes his hand was there. This is how you build a love that actually lasts. Now, we have to talk about what happens when the music stops, the lights stay dim, and his hand finally leaves your neck, because this, the afterglow, is where the real relationship is either forged in gold or starts to crumble into dust. You see, the intensity of that kind of physical takeover creates what I call a vulnerability hangover. In the moment, you were raw, you were exposed. You allowed another human being to exert a primal kind of dominance over you. And while that feels incredible in the heat of the bedroom tango, the moment you transition back into being two people who have to decide what to order for breakfast, there can be a strange sense of emotional exposure if he just rolls over and checks his phone after having his hand on your throat 5 minutes earlier. There is a massive disconnect that happens in your brain. It feels like a betrayal of the trust you just handed him. This is why aftercare isn't just a buzzword for people who spend too much time on the internet. It is a fundamental requirement for a high-value relationship. A man who understands the weight of what he just did will instinctively move from commander to protector. He will pull you in. He will kiss your forehead. He will hold you in a way that says, I know I just took you to the edge, but I've got you safe on the ground now. This is the integration phase. If you don't integrate the beast with the gentleman, you're just living in a fractured reality. You're having spacey encounters with a stranger who happens to live in your house. But when he bridges that gap, when he shows you that he can be the man who firmly claims you and the man who tenderly cares for you, is when you stop being just a girlfriend and start becoming his queen. This is the ultimate emotional security play. It's the realization that you don't have to choose between a nice guy and a bad boy. You want a man who has the beast in him but keeps it on a leash made of respect and love. And look, I want to speak to the women who feel a bit of shame after these encounters. Maybe you grew up in a household where you were taught that good girls don't like it rough. Maybe you've spent your whole life being the strong one and you feel like wanting a man to take control makes you weak or regressive. I want you to take that shame and throw it out the window. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who is so secure in her identity that she can play with the shadows of her desire. You aren't submitting because you are less than surrendering, because you are more than. You are a complex, multi-dimensional creature who has the capacity to lead a boardroom and the capacity to be pinned to a bed. Both are true. Both are you. When you own that, you stop being a victim of your desires and you start being the architect of your pleasure. Now, let's look at the long-term identity shift that happens when you bring this kind of intensity into your relationship. It creates a sacred language. There's a look he can give you across a crowded dinner table, a specific heavy-lidded gaze that reminds you of his hand on your neck. In that moment, even though you're talking about boring adult things like mortgages or career moves, there is a subcurrent of electricity running between you. This is how you bulletproof your relationship against the roommate syndrome. We've all seen those couples who have become functional partners. They are great at logistics, great at parenting, great at doing life, but the fire is dead. They become flat. The reason they've become flat is that they've stopped playing. They've decided that seriousness is the only mode of operation. But the physical play, we're talking about the controlled aggression, the assertive claiming, that is the anti-venom for a boring relationship. It keeps the mystery alive. It keeps the chase going even when you've been together for 10 years. It reminds both of you that you are sexual beings who happen to be partners, not just partners who occasionally knock boots. But here is the mathy Hussey truth you need to hear. None of this works if the character isn't there. I've spent 15 years talking about attraction, but attraction is just the hook. Or connection is the story if he is a guy who claims you in the bedroom but gnaws you in the living room. He's not a masculine leader. He's just a selfish performer. You have to demand that the intensity he shows when the clothes are off is matched by the integrity he shows when the clothes are on. If he wants the privilege of putting his hand on your throat, he has to earn the responsibility of holding your heart. It's a package deal. You don't get the octane physical connection without level emotional commitment. That is the price of entry. And if you're sitting there thinking, Matthew, I want this, but I don't know how to ask for it without sounding weird, I want you to remember this. Vulnerability is the shortest distance between two hearts. You don't have to give him a manual. You just have to share your internal landscape. You can say something as simple as, I realized the other day that when you're really firm with me, when you take the lead physically, it makes me feel incredibly close to you. It makes me feel like I can finally stop thinking and just be with you. That isn't a demand. It's an invitation. You're inviting him into a deeper version yourself. And any man worth his salt will jump at the chance to be the one who hoodlocks that part of you. This is about polished polarity. It's the idea that we are constantly moving between the sacred and the profane. The sacred is the love, the commitment. I'll be there for you when you're sick part. The profane is the I want to devour you, that I'm going to take control of you part. A truly pick love, life requires both. Sacred, you have a friendship. If you only have the profane, you have a fling. But when you marry the two, when his hand on your neck is an act of devotion, as much as it is an act of desire, that is when you found the holy grail of intimacy. It's about being seen in your most unfiltered state. We spend so much of our lives performing. We perform for our bosses, our friends, even our parents. Bedroom should be the one place where the performance ends and the truth begins. And sometimes the truth is that you want to be handled. The truth is that he wants to conquer. As long as that truth is wrapped in consent and care, it is one of the most beautiful things two humans can share. It is a celebration of our biological roots and our spiritual heights. So as we wrap this up, I want you to look at your love life, not as a chore or a series of moves, but as a masterpiece you are co-creating. If he reaches for your throat, don't just see it as a kink. See it as a question. He is asking, can I have all of you? Can I take the lead? Do you trust me enough to let go? And your response, a moan or a look of fire, is your answer. Make sure your answer is honest. Make sure your answer is safe. And above all, make sure your answer is yours. Don't do it because you think you should. Do it because it feeds the part of you that wants to be fully alive. You are a high value woman, and a value woman knows that her desire is her power now. And you find a man who can match it with his own grounded strength. You aren't just getting down to business. You are climbing the mountain. You are reaching for a level of transcendence that most people only read about in books. This is what true intimacy looks like. It's intense, it's raw, and it is beautifully, unapologetically human. Go out there and build a love that is as strong as his grip and as deep as your trust, because you don't deserve settling for lukewarm. You deserve the fire. You deserve the claiming. You deserve to be held in every sense of the word. Stay strong, stay vulnerable, and as always, keep being the prize, because when you know your worth, you'll never settle for a man who doesn't know how to handle it. This is your love life, and it's time to make it legendary. Thank you for going on this journey with me, and I can't wait to see how you transform your relationship by embracing the shadows and walking into the light together. It's time to stop playing small and start loving big. You've got this. Now go out there and show him exactly what it means to truly have you. This is the Hussey way. We don't just talk about love, weave it with intention, intensity, and integrity. The triple threat of a world-class relationship. Let's get to work. Now, if you've stayed with me through every minute of this conversation, it tells me something vital about you. You are not someone who is willing to settle for a surface level existence. You aren't interested in the cosmopolitan tips that only scratch the surface of why we do what we do when the lights go down. You want the deep stuff. You want the psychological truth that actually moves the needle in your relationship. And that is exactly why you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Because look, we aren't just talking about bedroom moves. Here, we are talking about the architecture of your entire future. Every single week, I am bringing you the blueprints to navigate the most complex, messy, and beautiful parts of human connection, the stuff that no one else is brave enough to talk about with this much honesty. I've spent 15 years decoding the hidden frequency of desire, and I don't want you to miss a single broadcast. When you subscribe, you aren't just joining a channel, you are joining a global community of high-value individuals who are committed to building a love life that actually works. You're saying no to the games, no to the confusion, and a massive yes to your own empowerment. If you want to know how to handle the ghosters, how to spot the value men from a mile away, and how to keep the spark turning into a bonfire year after year, then you need to be here. To luck or fate. Fate is for people who are too scared to take the wheel. Evolution is for people like you. Hit that button, turn on the notifications. And let's keep building this masterpiece together. And if you're ready to take the express lane to the relationship of your dreams, head over to my website and grab one of my deep dive programs where we really get under the hood of your specific situation. Your love life is the most important investment you will ever make. It's time to start treating it like one. I'm Matthew Hussey, and I am honored to be your guide through the wilds of modern dating and intimacy. I'll see you in the next one. But until then, stay strong, stay curious, and keep being the prize. Let's get after it.